Good evening. It is February 17th, and this is the regular meeting of Troy City Council. Please silence your electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led tonight by Mr. McCormick, who is working on his Eagle Scout badge for citizenship in the community, and he is with Troop 365. Followed by invocation by Mrs. Robin Uda. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow with me, please. Lord, as we gather here tonight to discuss a couple of different city issues, we are thankful for the opportunity we have to serve our community. We pray that you would be with all of the members of this community, keep them safe wherever they might be tonight, and give us a good evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. McCormick, if you have any questions, well, you're welcome to come up after the meeting, and any of the council members can assist you. Thank you. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Tremblay.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mrs. Sneed.
Here.
Mr. Swayzer.
Here.
Mr. Twist.
Here.
Mr. Kendall.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Mrs. Oda.
Here.
Mr. Heath.
Here.
All members are present.
Mrs. Stein, please read a summary of the minutes of the February 2nd meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of Council, February 2, 2015. Committee reports. Community and Economic Development Committee recommended that ordinance number 01-2015 be adopted to provide for the rezoning of 40 parcels on West Main Street. Recreation and Parks Committee recommended legislation be prepared to authorize an agreement with Crossroads Consulting Services related to a feasibility study for a second sheet of ice at the Hobart Arena. Resolution number R3-2015, agreement with Crossroads Consulting Services for feasibility study, was given first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 01-2015, changing the zoning of 40 parcels of the Hobart Brothers ITW site, was given third reading and adopted. Following various comments, council adjourned at 7:18 p.m.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes as read. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Clark and seconded by Mr. Tremblay to accept the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mrs. Sneed.
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer.
Yes.
Mr. Twist.
Yes.
Mr. Kendall.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Mrs. Oda.
Yes.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
The Community and Economic Development Committee met, and Chairman Mr. Bill Twist has their report.
Thank you, Madam President. This committee met on February 10th. A petition has been filed with the county for the annexation of 1.243 acres in Concord Township to the city of Troy. This parcel, owned by S. Howard Cheney, is located off Peters Road. At least 20 days prior to the county's public hearing on an annexation, the city is required to adopt a statement indicating what services the municipal corporation would provide to the territory proposed for the annexation. Such services are those provided to any parcel within the city. The county's hearing on the annexation is April 7th. It is the recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared approving the standard statement of services related to the Cheney annexation, and that is respectfully submitted by Tom Kendall, John Swayzer, and myself as chair, William Twist.
Do any council members have any questions on the report? Do you have anything further, Mr. Twist?
Nope.
Thank you. The next report is from the Streets and Sidewalks Committee, and Chairman Mr. Bobby Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met on February 2nd to consider recommending the resolution of necessity for the Streetscape 3D project. This project includes both sides of East Main Street from Walnut Street to Mulberry Street. The current estimated cost of the project is $575,000 and includes sidewalk, curbs, of the paver brick design to the extent possible, underground utilities, light poles, and other aesthetics identified as part of the streetscape. $300,000 of the project cost will be funded by an ODOT grant, estimated to be assessed to property owners related to the sidewalk work is approximately $64,000. Those property owners will also be able to present issues or questions related to the sidewalk work to an assessment equalization board. It is the recommendation of the committee the legislation be prepared authorizing the resolution of necessity for the Streetscape 3D project, and this is respectfully submitted by Councilman Heath, Councilwoman Snee, and myself as chair.
Are there any questions on this report?
Yes, Madam President, I have a couple of questions.
Mr. Schweizer?
What are we talking about when we say streetscape? Are we talking about putting in more brick pavers and everything on down Main Street?
Yes.
How many property owners are we talking about that have to be assessed? And are they aware of it?
11, and I believe the next step is to notify them as to what their estimated costs are.
So 11 property owners are going to be assessed $64,000?
Yes, including the city of Troy.
How much are we assessing them if we're taking the biggest part?
We're not taking the biggest part. We are among the biggest part. Let's see, PD is approximately $5,600 of that amount.
And so we're going to assess them another $59,000 for 11 property owners?
Yes. There's a lot of frontage out there.
Have we notified them yet and told them?
No, I don't believe we have. Have
That's
we?
the next step.
Yep.
Some of them are aware of it though, because I've had a couple of them ask me about it when it was gonna take place. So some of them are aware. They haven't received official notice yet though.
Right, the official notice happens after this. Mr. Schweizer, this is the same process that we follow with North Market Street, and it's the same process we follow with this annual sidewalk program, where we do the same assessments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mrs. Oda?
I was not at the committee meeting, but I'm just wondering when it says the paver brick design to the extent possible, what does that mean? In the summary report.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at. Yes, to match the existing pavers and extend them along the same line that they are from the blocks towards the square.
So just matching it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Are there any other committee reports to come before council? Seeing none, then we'll open the meeting to citizen comments. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Livingston is our timekeeper. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments related to any of the agenda items this evening? If so, please come to the microphone and state your name and address before addressing council.
Madam President, my name is Paul Kessler, and I don't live in Troy. I live at 4030 Kessler Frederick Road, West Milton. But I'm here in regards of the street sidewalk committee there. I know this is kind of what they've done in the past, but I'm also a representative of the Redmond's Lodge, so that's why I'm here. We was just questioning how come it was so much. Some of those, some of the properties are assessed another $8,000. There's 3 properties on the north side that are assessed $8,000 additional dollars. There's nothing in there that says what it's for. Is there anybody that can explain that?
Mr. Titterton, do you want to address that?
Not at this point, except that we would be glad to meet out on the site with any of the property owners that want to. We did go through, the engineering department did go through and specifically measure all of the frontage. So I would not want to try to explain this here, not having been out there myself. But again, we will go out there and we will talk to anybody who wants to on site, wherever they want to go, if they want to come in here where it's warmer, and explain the estimates that we've come up with.
If you would like to leave your phone number with Mrs. Knight, she can see that city staff makes contact with you to set up a time when it would be mutually agreeable to go
Yes.
out there and talk about that.
Okay, is my time up yet? We're in the process, we just signed a contract, last fall with Bryan Brothers to redo our whole building outside. We got $42,000. We're gonna try to get the outside of the building all done. How is this construction gonna interfere with our construction? I mean, if we know that, maybe we could have put our construction off, Nobody mentioned, hey, you guys might wanna think about putting your construction off till the sidewalks are done. Can it be done in conjunction with the sidewalks? We got 2 drain pipes for drainage from the roofs that one I know right out close to where our property and Mojo's is. Just
That's okay. Let me say that we will work with you on that, and we will coordinate anything that we do with what you do. And so our timing will be sensitive to yours. So when you talk to staff about the calculations or the estimates, we can talk to you about that as well.
okay.
I will mention, we do have our city engineer here present this evening, and so she's taking some notes back there and taking this all in. Thank you. So any other comments at this point on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to resolutions and ask Mrs. Knight to read Resolution R4, 2015.
Resolution number R4, 2015, resolution declaring the necessity of constructing sidewalks in the city of Troy, Ohio. This is related to the Downtown Sidewalk Program, Phase 3B, also known as a streetscape program, which is East Main Street between Walnut Street and Mulberry Street, both sides of the street, first reading.
Are there any questions from council on this resolution?
Madam President, I'd like to see this go to another reading and maybe address this with some of the property owners a little bit more.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
Got a couple seconds. I guess, do we normally do or just if there's no objections, we should just go ahead and go to a second reading?
May I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
If we have this go to another reading, does that delay our notification of property owners?
Well, it will, yes, because we have to approve it before
So
they are
if we're wanting the
notified.
property owners to know, I'm not sure why we would delay a resolution of necessity.
I don't see why we can't let them know that we're in discussion about this. And
They will know by, if they look at the newspaper, they'll know by reason.
But they will get no notice from the city.
Well, not officially until we've approved it, because until we've approved it, it's not gonna move forward. So, and I don't see that there's a big rush at this point, we're in, January, February, is there? I think I'm getting a nod from our engineer. Do you want to talk, or do you want her to come up to the microphone?
Yeah, come on up.
If I may, Jill Rhodes, city engineer. The rush is just because this is the beginning process of notifying the residents, and we are receiving ODOT funding, and it has to be under contract by June. While that doesn't seem like, while that seems at several months off, when you talk about the process and then you give the residents, when you actually pass the resolution of necessity, a letter will go out to the residents, and then they have up to a month to reply back to us to, object to the resolution, object to their proposed estimated assessment. And then if we do have objections, then the council would be requested to form an equalization board, where then you would hear the objections and then you could make your decision. But this is really, truly just the first step. Yes, they may hear, from the Troy Daily News in the newspaper, they would get a little bit more information, but they wouldn't get the information that they're going to get in the letter. Plus, Sue would sends the letter out for the resolution of necessity, and it actually has my contact information. So this is actually getting the resolution of necessity passed so that we can send the letter out gives the property owners then the official notice, and then they can call and we can start to talk about it and coordinate from there. My request would be that you pass it tonight. That's just my request, just so we could get that ball rolling, versus if we let it sit for another 2 weeks, no ball starting, nothing starting to move forward.
But if we pass this, then it sets that ball rolling, and do the property owners have any recourse?
Yes, the equalization board, that we would request, once they contact me or Sue, then they would request, if they're opposing their assessment, we would get that in writing, and then we would request that council create the equalization board, which then looks at all of the opposition.
So it gives the citizen more of a voice.
Yeah, and an informed voice.
Right.
I mean, right now, they haven't received anything in writing that says what their estimated assessment's going to be or anything like that. I mean, because the process is we don't provide that information until the resolution of necessity is passed.
Well, it
Right.
seems like they could have some kind of notification that this is coming.
They don't know if it's
Yeah, but it's
coming
all
until we
conjecture.
approve it.
Yeah.
There's nothing coming until you approve it. And this is all very clearly and specifically outlined in the Ohio Revised Code. That's why we follow this process.
So right now, it's all conjecture.
That's right, and these are estimates, the $64,000 is the estimate, and that would, by you passing this resolution, that would be the maximum. So even if the bids came out above 64,000 total, then that would not be assessed, that amount over 64 would not be assessed back to the property owners.
So I guess I'm still fuzzy. If we pass this tonight, we're doing this. We're moving forward with Streetscape Plan B, or 3B.
Now, yes, that's absolutely true. However, we have passed legislation in the past about streetlight assessment, or the streetscape project. And each time that we've had legislation and we've had discussions about it, it is included an assessment as part of the funding breakdown. So this is not new information, and it has been out there in vague terms, only because we didn't have estimates on measurements by property owner. But this is not a new component to the project.
And I might point out also that this is not the first phase of the project, so we're just continuing what we've done in past years.
And we're allowing the citizen to have an informed voice.
Absolutely.
Same thing we did with the North Market Street.
Right.
2 years ago. Yeah. There was
This time there's residences involved.
there was residents involved. Then we had to set up that board
Right.
for that because there was people
Who sits on this board?
whoever's appointed. Last time it was, I know Mr. Wolke was on it. And there
I
was
believe
some-
Mr. McGarry sat on it previously.
Renee
I'm,
Gavrillak was on it.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
And I might add, they changed, some people showed up and objected to their assessment, and the board did change some assessments.
Right. So,
And the council is the one that does appoint the equalization board. So if one is requested, if we do get some protests, written protests, then we will be back to you with a recommendation for an equalization.
Can I ask this gentleman a question?
Yes. If he wants to answer.
Sure. I can come back up. I've got plenty to ask anyway. But go ahead.
I'm just wondering, how did you know, how do you get your information with what the city is doing?
I read it in, actually, since I live out of town, I got it in the Troy Daily News. But since I live out of town, my newspaper is contracted through the post office. Well, you know what happened yesterday? Holiday, didn't get no mail. So I called the officers at my lodge here and said, hey, do you know this is going on and how much is it going to cost us? The paper didn't have the write-up of how much each property is going to be assessed. Once you pass this resolution, no matter what the assessment's going to be, I don't have a chance to vote against it. Is what I'm hearing. But this is just continuation from North Market Street. I understand all that. But part of the price was $8,000 attached to us, attached to Mojo, and I think attached to K's. At $8,000 above, it's $16,000 plus dollars that you're going to charge the Redmonds to redo a sidewalk that most of it doesn't need redone other than put the bricks in the middle and tear it up and put curves. And my other question was to the lady was, how far north on Walnut Street are you going to go? You know, you're talking about Main Street, but we've got a corner property that their door comes right out the corner. Are you cutting it right in the middle? Where is your cutoff on the North Walnut Street side is what I was saying.
It's not very far down Walnut. I mean, it's getting around the corner.
Yeah, it's just to finish that slab. right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, because the city was out there and right in the middle of our sidewalk, they cut to put the electric in for that junction box they got across the street. So we've got in the center of our Walnut Street sidewalk, a nice little path where it's been, you know, you guys have repaired where you cut to put the conduit in for the electric there. So from the electrical box that's in the sidewalk on Walnut Street, all the way down towards the corner, and then where it jumps across the street to the electrical box, right in the middle of our sidewalk, is where the city dug it up to put their electric in. So you know what I'm saying? So it's not a smooth pavement on the Walnut Street side. That's why I was asking how far on Walnut Street. Are we going to finally get rid of that, you know, and make that smooth, or is that something the city is supposed to take care of? You know, you guys cut the hole in the middle of it.
Project hasn't been.
But that's, Walnut Street doesn't have anything to do with this. That was my question on some of that, what the $8,000 assessment was for the 3 properties on the north side, which was above the other stuff.
And I believe that the engineering department will be able to address
Yeah.
that with you.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
But like that brother there, he's an officer up there. He doesn't get the Troy paper, so he didn't know about it. So, you know,
So
there's,
how would you like for the city to let you know what's going on?
send us a letter.
that'll happen.
I know. I know you can't do it till that. That's why I like to keep the Troy Daily News. I'm not bad mouthing Troy Daily News, but my contract is with them, and they send it through the mail. You know, that's not my contract, but that's what I got to live with. That's my fight. So, but yeah, that's how I read it. I try to keep up. I'm a Troy grown boy, you know, so I try to keep up on the Troy news. I work here in Troy. So.
Send letters to everybody
No.
for every issue.
No, just 11 property owners. You know, it don't.
As we do
Yeah, it don't take long to walk down and knock on the doors. You know, we try to call the people we knew. But
Thank you. I think since there's been so much discussion, I think we are going to do this as a roll call vote so we know where we stand here. We've got a motion from Mrs. Oda, seconded by Mr. Schweizer, to go to another reading. And so we find out what the wishes of the whole council are. So I'm going to ask, please, if you'll give us a roll call vote.
Mrs. Snead?
I'm clarifying that this vote is to approve going to a second reading?
Yes.
Then I'm voting no.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
No.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
No.
Mr. Tremblay?
No.
Mr. Clark?
No.
Okay.
Therefore,
Then we will need a motion for
Move to suspend.
suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Snee and seconded by Mr. Phillips to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swazer?
No.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
No.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
There are 2 no votes, so that does pass.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mrs. Snee to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
No.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
No.
Resolution is adopted.
Okay, and letters then can be sent out. Thank you. Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R5, 2015.
Resolution number R5, 2015, resolution establishing municipal services for certain territory containing 1.243 acres more or less in Concord Township. This is for the property known as the Cheney annexation. This is the first step in this process. This would be certified to the county for the statement of services, and this is the first reading.
Are there any questions from council on this resolution?
Move it to suspend.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Kendall to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Clark to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
We have no ordinances this evening, so Mrs. Knight, are there any communications or announcements?
It's the annual reminder about filing of financial disclosure statements, that's all.
Thank you. Mayor Beamish, do you have any comments this evening?
None this evening, Madam President.
Mr. Titterington, any comments this evening?
Nothing this evening, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Livingston, any comments?
I too have nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Stickle, any comments this
I have no comments, Madam Chair.
I don't think he's in the audience tonight, but I'd like to wish Chief Beringer a long and happy retirement. I believe March 7th is his final day. Does anyone on council have any comments? Anyone on staff have any comments? Anyone else in the audience have any comments this evening? Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Make it a peace-filled week. Meeting adjourned.